Halloween usually sees some horror-specific games coming out, and this year is no exception. Lucius is a horror adventure game released in October 2012 by Finnish developers Shiver Games and published by budget publisher Lace Mamba. Anyone remotely familiar with the whole possessed kid style of horror films and famous titles like The Exorcist, The Shining, The Omen will probably be familiar with the plot behind the game. One of the main differences between Lucius and most other horror titles, though, is that you're actually playing the possessed kid rather than trying to stop him. It's not unusual for games to have that sort of bad guy being the protagonist thing, but it's a little bit different for the adventure genre to try that, so it's a bit of an interesting twist. The game is set in 1970s America, and almost the entire game takes place in your family's house. This is a really big sort of overlook hotel style mansion with lots of corridors, rooms leading off into other rooms, and a variety of different staff tending the house. Most of the game involves Lucius thinking of ways to earn the lives of his house staff without getting caught, using a variety of different powers bestowed upon you by the devil. Now, exactly how killing a variety of maids and house guests is going to help Lucifer take over the world, I have no idea. But the general concept is that you'll be able to take over your father's wealth and power because he's a senator. While Lucifer didn't just take over someone more important, is a little bit unknown, the president's son for example. But as you're playing a murdering, possessed, psychopath 6-year-old, it's probably not really that important. And Lucius makes no qualms about killing people that are both complete dicks and perfectly nice people, so it does fit into the genre quite nicely. The gameplay itself is split into different chapters. You're normally given a target to murder, and then you have to figure out how to do it in a way where you won't get found out or caught. I won't spoil the game by explaining each one, but the very first murder in the prologue, in the tutorial section, involves you locking a maid in a cold freezer. It's a little bit like the scene in Tomb Raider 2 with the butler, except the maid does die, and it's probably the least gruesome, bloody murder of the entire game. Many of the puzzles in the game involve you picking up different items and using them on other items, typical adventure game style. You can combine items as well, but there's absolutely, I think there's like twice in the game you have to do this, and once is in the tutorial, so it's a little bit of a misused feature. As well as your typical object combining thing though, you've also got a variety of different powers as well. You can move objects with your mind, you have mind control, you can eventually learn to erase people's memories, and finally you can set things on fire. The game plays out nearly entirely in this house, and there are different things change along the way, different rooms become open, different areas become available. So despite that sort of very confined setting, there's a number of different bits and pieces that change as you go through the game. The house itself is pretty cool. It feels a bit like a hotel. I wasn't quite sure if it was a hotel to begin with because there are so many guest rooms, but apparently not. It's a family house. They have their own butcher. They have a variety of different handymen, a car mechanic it seems, several different maids and a head maid. I mean, the amount of stuff this family have is quite ludicrous, which helps because the whole point of the game is to murder them all. Graphically speaking, the game actually looks really nice for a budget title, and there's a ton of detail. Textures look very, very nice, lighting looks great, and the changing weather and different seasons that happen between the chapters do a really good job of making the lighting look different and making the whole house look different, especially on the variety of different night missions that you get to do. The game's combination of stealth and adventure with the end goal of murder gives it a little bit of a Hitman vibe, which is cool. And that's not something you'll see in adventure games. There's not too much action sequences here, and when they do exist, they're generally quite easy. But for those of you that hate seeing any sort of action or game over in an adventure game, there are plenty of times you can die, or, well, not die, but get caught, and that ends up into game over. A lot of the marketing material suggests that it is a stealth game, but the stealth elements are normally pretty simple. I mean, as long as you don't set someone in fire in front of someone else, or pick up jars of your mind in front of your mum, generally you're going to be fine. And the few actual stealth elements there are, the stealth sections, they're over pretty quickly and they're not particularly difficult. From a puzzle solving perspective, Lucius isn't going to tax most people, I don't think. There's normally a logic to everything you do, your notepad hints towards what you've got to do next. I don't think it's going to make serious adventure players think twice about the puzzles, but it is still a bit more difficult than sort of Telltale style Walking Dead, at least, where you have pretty much everything nearly solved for you and you're just walking through a story. Some of the puzzles, however, do rely very heavily on pixel hunting, and if you don't know what pixel hunting is, it's a complaint, or at least a feature of older adventure games where you would have an item that you would need to solve a puzzle and you'd have to find it, and you'd have to search through the entire screen of pixels looking for this one pixel item that you'd need to then pick up. It means that the game relies less on logic and more on being lucky and scanning rooms for different items. At one point there is an area of the game where you need to put water into a container, and I mean, this house is littered with glasses and vases and all sorts of things that you could put water in, but there is one specific water bottle that is up on the shelf in your bedroom that you need to use for that. So it's a bit frustrating when you know the answer to a puzzle, but you don't have the exact item you need and you have to run around the house looking for it. There's also a fair amount of bugs in the game, especially with the AI pathfinding. The biggest problem is the missions where you have to get someone to walk around to interact with something, and they end up in the way, walking into a wall, not being able to walk through a door, you have to nudge them through the door. I've not seen anything that's completely broken the game, but it does completely ruin the immersion in a game that's about stealth and a game that's about sort of this atmosphere that you see a butler walking into a wall or a maid trying to walk through the same door 20 different times. The biggest problem with the game that I found, though, is the complete lack of a quick save feature, which is pretty unforgivable. The game saves fairly often, although you have no clue when it's actually saving, which is annoying. And if you run into a bug that gets frustrating, or you are in the stealth sections where you're going to get a game over if you're not careful, the lack of a save option is really, really, really annoying. The game itself is probably about 7 or 8 hours long if you are vaguely experienced with horror games. If you're the type that's going to get stuck, yeah, it'll last a little longer. The production puts it a step above most budget and horror games. The story and writing probably don't hold up to something like The Walking Dead or something like Deponia, but I think the setting is pretty cool. The idea of playing the evil character is done quite well. The powers give the game a little bit more interest beyond just inventory, puzzles and combining items. One thing I should note, though, is that it isn't really a horror game in the sense that it's going to scare you. If you want a scary game, you want to play something that's designed to scare you, like Amnesia or Slender, or perhaps something that has a bit more atmosphere, like Stalker. You won't find it scary because you're playing the evil kid, and playing the evil kid makes the evil kid fun, and if it's fun, it's not scary.
That's my boy.
Overall, if you can look past the wonky object finding system and some of the bugs that you're going to encounter during the game, Lucius is a pretty solid adventure game, and you can pick it up on the Steam store for around £15 to £20 depending on offers.
I bet you can remember my 6th birthday like it was yesterday.
Now you know what to do, my son. You must continue with your mission and bring me souls.